What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through a full breakdown on how you guys can dominate your Yahoo fantasy football leagues. So I'm going to be going through some of the best targets at every single position, and then also just some overall draft strategy, some positional trends that I noticed to really just help you guys build the strongest rosters and just destroy the rest of your league mates. Yesterday, I did a video on the ESPN platform, so if you haven't seen that and you're playing in an ESPN league, go check that one out after this one. But this one is all going to be focused on Yahoo. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know any thoughts you have down below in the comment section. And let's just jump right into it. So we're going to be starting off with some of my favorite running back targets. And there's really not a ton on here. So I have 4 players. The first one is going to be Bijan Robinson. His ADP is pick 9. Yahoo has him as their RB4. He's going to be my running back 2. Him and Eckler for me are pretty much interchangeable. So running back 2, running back 3, I could really go either way. I just think that when you're looking at Yahoo's ADP, CMC and Eckler are way pushed up early first round. And if Eckler and CMC are going within the first 3-4 picks, I just don't think Bijan Robinson should be down here at pick 9. So if you are getting him at pick 9, pick 8, pick 7, any of those spots, I do think that's going to be a solid value, especially when you're looking at the way running backs are kind of, ranked on Yahoo. Then we've got Tony Pollard, who's going at pick 17.8, so pretty much middle of the second round. He's Yahoo's RB9. He's going to be my running back 7. I also talked about Tony Pollard in the ESPN video, so I do kind of like him on multiple different platforms. Then the next running back here is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's going at around pick 42, which is a mid-4th round pick. In my opinion, this is probably the craziest value you're going to get at the running back position on Yahoo Fantasy Football. He's their running back 17. He's my running back 12, and I think he actually has room to move up in that ranking. If Ramondre gets serious competition, I think Jahmyr Gibbs could jump him. I'd be willing to take Jahmyr Gibbs early to mid-3rd round. So if you're going to be able to get him mid-4th round on Yahoo, I think that's going to be a great value. And then the last one here is going to be Rachaad White. He's going at around pick 78, but he's Yahoo's running back 30. He's going to be my running back 23, so I also think Rachaad White is a nice value here. Overall, when you're going to draft on Yahoo and when you look at Yahoo's ADP, their running back prices are incredibly inflated. Just to give you guys some reference, Travis Etienne and Najee Harris on Yahoo are going early 3rd round. Kenneth Walker's ADP is late 3rd round. Miles Sanders, Dameon Pierce, these guys are going in round 4. So on other platforms, you may find Jahmyr Gibbs. I think even Ramondre was going round 4 on ESPN. The price of these running backs in other leagues or other platforms, you're going to get Sanders and Pierce round 4, round 5. You're going to get Kenneth Walker round 5. So these guys are pushed way, way up. And so I just feel like Yahoo's a platform where there are going to be very few running back picks that you love. If you're on the clock, I just think it's going to be very tough to find a running back where you're I love drafting them at this price, pretty much outside of the 4 guys that I mentioned here in terms of earlier round running backs. So that's why I'm kind of willing to pay a premium on these running backs in round 1 or round 2 instead of taking a massive reach in rounds 3 through 8. You've got guys like Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb going at pick 10, 11 in that area. Even if I'd rather take them at pick 12 or 13, I'd rather reach up a few spots and grab them in the 1st round as opposed to then having to snag Kenneth Walker in the 3rd round just to fill out my first running back position. Instead of going for ETN at 25 or Najee at 27, I'd much rather go with a Bijan Robinson at pick 9 or the other guys I talked about, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley. So I'd rather pay up a few, slots in the 1st, 2nd round as opposed to having to pay up 1 round, 2 rounds of value to reach and get a running back because you didn't snag one early on. So those are kind of my general thoughts on the running back position. I think later on, once you get outside of the first 2 rounds, you're really not going to like the prices that are available. So you may want to think about just locking 1 or 2 running backs through the first, 2 rounds. Obviously, if you can get Jahmyr Gibbs late 3rd, early 4th round, I think that's also a super solid pick. And then these are going to be some of the later round running backs that I'm looking at here. So Elijah Mitchell, he's their running back 40. Tyler Algier, running back 41. Zach Charbonnet, their running back 42. I do think Yahoo's ADP gets sort of messed up towards the back end. I think in general, these guys are going to be going later than this. I think their ADP gets capped around 135. So it just kind of creates some weird back end ADP. But so Zach Charbonnet, I think he's going to be splitting a backfield with Kenneth Walker, has some nice handcuff upside. Devin A-Chain, a guy I like on a lot of different platforms. If the Dolphins don't end up signing Dalvin Cook, I do think A-Chain could end up being like their lead running back. Jaylen Warren, Tank Bigsby, pretty much all of these guys, I guess outside of like Devin A-Chain, have a lot of handcuff value, but I do think some of them have standalone value potentially, guys like Charbonnet, Bigsby, maybe Jaylen Warren, but I'm not quite as confident. But these are a lot of the running backs I'm going to be looking to slide in as my like RB3, RB4, RB5. Like these are the later round guys that I'm looking at. Now shifting over into the wide receiver position, the first wide receiver value I really like here is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going at around pick 23, which is Yahoo's wide receiver 10. He's going to be my wide receiver 6. And I have Amon-Ra as like a back-end first-round pick. So if I view him as a back-end first-rounder and you're able to get him as a back-end second-rounder, I think that is some really, really nice value. The next guy is going to be Calvin Ridley. He's going at like the 4-5 turn, Yahoo's wide receiver 19. Calvin Ridley is my wide receiver 13, so I'd be all over him at that 4-5 turn price. Then we have some guys going a little bit later on. Mike Williams, Christian Watson back-to-back. Mike Williams is Yahoo's wide receiver 28. He's my wide receiver 19. Christian Watson is Yahoo's wide receiver 29. He's going to be my wide receiver 21. So I really like those guys as like mid-round options. And then we've got guys going, what is this, like pick 9 area or round 9 area. Deontay Johnson, he's their wide receiver 33, my wide receiver 27. Marquise Brown, he's my wide receiver 29, but he is Yahoo's wide receiver 34. So I really like those guys, and like the middle rounds of your drafts can slide in as your wide receiver, 2, 3, maybe even 4 if you went kind of wide receiver heavy. The guys I just talked about are value options relative to their position, but I just think in general, like speaking in terms of all wide receivers, I think the wide receiver position is very, very devalued on Yahoo Fantasy Football. So I think the running backs really get pushed up. You're going to have to spend a premium on guys that you probably don't want to. I think the wide receiver position is the complete opposite. You're going to have a lot of values, throughout pretty much every round of your Yahoo drafts. Like you can pick wide receivers that are solid mid-tier wide receiver 2s at like the 4-5 turn. You can find back-end wide receiver 2s in like rounds 5 through 7. You're not going to be able to get that on a lot of other platforms. And I just think like from round 3 on, when you're looking at wide receiver versus running back, the wide receiver is almost always going to be the better pick, which is kind of why I talked about, you probably want to snag those running backs early because you don't want to be drafting running back over wide receiver unless it's like a Jahmyr Gibbs or Rachaad White for, pretty much like the entire rest of the draft. Just to give you guys some examples of like running back to wide receivers in the same range, you have Kenneth Walker being drafted next to Chris Olave. Kenneth Walker, someone I don't even want to take in like the first 4 rounds, maybe even first like 5 rounds. Chris Olave is someone I'm willing to take at the back end of the second. So the fact that those two are going next to each other is crazy. You've got a guy like Miles Sanders being drafted next to Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. Amari Cooper and Keenan Allen are guys I'd be willing to draft mid to late 3rd round. Miles Sanders, I'm probably not even looking in the first like 6, maybe even 7 rounds. Another example, Dalvin Cook, who's not even on a team and probably isn't going to slot in as a team's lead back, is being drafted next to Terry McLaurin, who's like a fringe top 24 wide receiver. So I just think in general, you're not going to want to be passing on these wide receiver options for running backs once you kind of get into the middle rounds. And then these are going to be some of my late round targets. They all happen to just be rookie wide receivers. I just think they're super devalued. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Yahoo's wide receiver 39. You've got Jordan Addison, their wide receiver 42. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver 52. Zay Flowers, wide receiver 53. Just to quickly talk about these guys, Jackson Smith and Jigba was my top wide receiver in this year's draft. Even though he's stepping into like a crowded wide receiver room, I still think he's a guy who can command a lot of volume from day one. Jordan Addison stepping into Adam Thielen's role, but should be a much better player than what we saw out of Adam Thielen last year. Quentin Johnston, you're putting him on one of the best passing attacks in the NFL. I think he can find a role. And then Zay Flowers has been really impressive in training camp. Rashad Bateman has been kind of banged up. I don't know what we're going to be getting out of OBJ after his second ACL tear. So I really like the later round values on those rookie wide receivers. Now, shifting into some of my favorite quarterback and tight end value picks, starting off with the quarterback position, I've got three guys here. Going to be Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Justin Herbert. So right now, Lamar is going as like an early fourth round pick. He's Yahoo's quarterback 5. He's going to be my quarterback 4. You got Justin Fields going at like the 4-5 turn. Yahoo's quarterback 6, my quarterback 5. And then Justin Herbert going at pick 55. Going to be Yahoo's quarterback 7. Also my quarterback 7, but I just like him relative to the other kind of quarterbacks that are being picked. So we've got Lamar Jackson going like a round and a half after Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, which to me is just too much of a difference. I have all those guys in the same tier. I do have Hurts and Allen ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson, but I just think a round and a half is way too much of a difference. I would definitely be willing to pay early fourth round on Lamar. I'm not going to be willing to pay a late second round on a Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen. Then we've got Joe Burrow, who's going 10 picks ahead of Justin Fields. That's also wild to me. I'd take Justin Fields straight up over Joe Burrow, like pretty easily. So if you're going to get almost a round of discount on Justin Fields compared to Joe Burrow, I would take that all day long. And then Joe Burrow going like 2 full rounds ahead of Justin Herbert, that is also crazy to me. I have those guys back to back in my rankings. So if you're going to get like a 2-round discount on Justin Herbert, I would much prefer him over a guy like Joe Burrow. So I do think there are like some manageable prices on some of these high upside quarterbacks. So Lamar, Fields, Herbert, I do like those guys. Also, if you punt the elite options, like you don't get one of the top guys, you don't get like a Lawrence or Deshaun Watson, I would not be reaching for like that back end tier. There's like a big tier of back end QB1s, high end QB2s. It's going to be like Dak, Tua, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson, like all of those dudes. There are going to be some of those guys in that tier on different platforms who are pushed up. For example, on Yahoo, it's like Dak Prescott and Tua that are going way earlier than those other guys. Like you've got those two going 2+ rounds ahead of guys like Daniel Jones and Geno Smith. There is no point in spending a 2-round premium on Dak or Tua when you can wait 2 rounds and get a guy like Daniel Jones or Geno Smith. Like, I think people could make legit arguments for Daniel Jones over both Dak and Tua. You could probably make the same argument for Geno Smith. So even if you do like Dak or Tua, I don't know if anyone thinks, like, you should be paying a 2 rounds ahead of those other options. So, like, even if you prefer them, I would still be looking to wait. And then now looking at the tight end targets, I do think there are some decent options here. The first one is going to be Mark Andrews. He's going as like a mid-third round pick, tight end 2, both on Yahoo and my rankings. But I talked about this in the ESPN vid. A 2-round difference between Kelsey and Mark Andrews, in my opinion, should not be a thing. Mark Andrews has flashed a high ceiling. The Ravens are going to be more pass-heavy this season. So I just think if you're getting Mark Andrews 2+ rounds after Travis Kelsey, that's just a much more reasonable price for me. So I really like him in the 3rd round. Then we've got Darren Waller, who is going as like a 6th-round pick. He's Yahoo's tight end 7. He's going to be my tight end 5. So he's going to be like my favorite middle-round option of like the, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, that group. I think Darren Waller has the most reasonable price. And then as like a late-round option, I also talked about Kincaid in the ESPN video. He's Yahoo's tight end 19. He's going to be my tight end 11. So if you just punt the position, I really like the idea of just throwing a dart on Kincaid, and you could also draft another tight end. Like, he could be your second option, but I do just like him as like kind of like a free later round option. I mean, if he's being drafted as the tight end 19, he may not even end up like on a roster at the end of your draft, but so someone to just kind of look out for. So now shifting away from positional targets and just kind of honing in my overall strategy. Honestly, on Yahoo, I would strongly consider going running back in the first 2 rounds. I'm not saying you have to be forced into it. I don't think you should ever go into a draft, with a locked-in strategy. But I think if the picks line up, I think going running back can set you up really well. Even if you go like, you go running back in the first 2 rounds, and then you're able to snag a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs in like the 3rd or 4th round, I think that'll set you up really nicely. Like in general, pretty much every draft I'm in, if I have the 101, I've been going with Justin Jefferson. Yahoo is really like the one platform where I'd actually consider going with Christian McCaffrey, and you may not feel great doing it in the moment. Like in a vacuum, you may prefer Justin Jefferson to Christian McCaffrey, but once you lock down those running back spots early, that allows you to kind of look Mark Andrews in round 3, maybe round 4 Lamar, round 4 5 Fields Herbert, and then you're able to get the Keenan Allens, the Amari Coopers, instead of drafting like a Kenneth Walker or a Miles Sanders. Like, the value at wide receiver is just really going to open up from round 3 on. The wide receivers are just going to be smash picks. So don't force anything, but I just think you're going to set yourself up in a not great spot if you end up going like wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. Even if you do it on other platforms, I just don't know if you're going to end up finding any solid running back values. So like I said, I'm willing to pay up a little bit in the first and second round to get those running backs. Like, do I want to pick Nick Chubb or Saquon Barkley at pick 9 or 10? Probably not. I'd rather wait for early second round, but I'd be willing to do it on Yahoo just because I don't want to get stuck with those other running backs like after round 2. So that's kind of like my overall strategy here. I think you can build some really strong rosters on Yahoo, especially if you just like run into solid running back value. Like, if you just get standard like ADP running backs on Yahoo, and then you're just able to hammer the wide receiver position, you snag like an elite tight end or a elite quarterback, I think you can build some really, really strong rosters with some really, really strong depth, especially at the wide receiver position. And then once you snag like 2 of those running backs early on, then you can just hammer those handcuff options that I talked about that are going like pretty late in your Yahoo drafts. So that's going to be my general strategy. What are you guys thinking? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you did enjoy, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, if you are playing in an ESPN league also, you can go check that video out. But thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.